What's up everybody, welcome back to another top 10 video, this time counting down the best plays from week 4 of stage 2 in the Overwatch League. Another week has passed as we edge ever closer to the stage 2 playoffs. Korean rosters continue to loom atop the rankings while certain teams that failed to meet expectations in stage 1 continue to turn things around. The LA Gladiators for instance currently hold the 3rd spot in the stage 2 standings, whilst Philadelphia Fusion are just a single series win away from eclipsing the Korean powerhouse that is Seoul Dynasty. However, before we're able to finalize the rankings and determine the champions of Stage 2, let's jump right into this breakdown of the top 10 plays from week 4 of competition. Kicking us off this week, we have a pretty funny moment from Jake on the side of the Houston Outlaws. In a close series against the Gladiators where every single bit of progress on the payload was hugely significant in helping the Outlaws try and take things to a 5th map, Jake was able to capitalize on an amusing series of miscommunication from the LA team. Pressuring the point early on before blinking away, Jake and Asher go head to head in the background with Jake clearly coming out on top as Asher is forced into retreat. Unfortunately for the Gladiators, every single member of their team decided to leave the payload without considering the tracer in the backline. At the top of your screen you can see the payload inching closer to the checkpoint, and as it cuts to the objective in motion, we can see Jake in a wide open space with zero opposition. A really well timed backcap from Jake as he capitalizes on the momentary disarray of the Gladiators. In at number 9 this week, we have a really simple looking engagement, but one that bears far more significance than initially meets the eye. Observing the compositions in play, we can see that the Valiant opted towards the popular Sombra composition for their Route 66 defense, wherein the rest of the team plays around her efforts in order to hold position on the hacked health packs and rapidly charge her EMP. Perhaps not even yet aware of the presence of a Sombra on the enemy team, Mistakes just casually walks on forwards with Kellex providing the damage boost for his revolver. Barely even noticing the opposing Sombra in the corner of his screen, he locks onto her, lands 2 quick shots before freakishly snapping onto a discorded Soon for 2 easy kills. Whilst it may appear as though Mistakes simply acquired a few early picks, in actuality his efforts were far more impactful as he entirely stopped the plans of the Valiant and forced a composition swap as a result, essentially picking up the first checkpoint before the initial engagement could ever truly start. In our 8th spot this week we have what is arguably one of the cleanest teamfights to date in the league. As Soul march forwards toward the payload once again, Prophet, the DPS specialist who can apparently flex to any character of the game, has positioned himself in such a way as to not be scouted by the Dynasty as they enter the engagement. With the infrasight from Birdring, Jester is able to time his shatter at the most opportune moment in order to knock down every single member of the Soul roster, just before Prophet comes in with the Graviton to group everyone together for an easy team kill. The only reason this play isn't higher on the list is simply because one can argue that it was a slight overuse of ultimates. The Graviton probably wasn't needed, but then again, at the peak of competition, why take the chance, right? In at number 7 this week, we have an impressive Nanoblade from what was one of the craziest maps in the history of competitive Overwatch. As we get into the play, we can see Libera scouting out the attack from Soul before receiving the Nano Boost from Arc. Reacting immediately, Libera essentially has free reign with this blade as Soul are pushing in without a single support ultimate at the ready. He slices through Miro, Zunba, Jaehong and Toby whilst dropping to a mere 10 HP in the process. That's all that's needed to repel the Dynasty once again as Libera stands out in this matchup of giants.
Toby decides Zunba might be the optimal target there, a slash through, and it's a nasty! Oh, Libero! It's 5 kills!
In at number 6, we have a play from the tiebreaker match in the series between the Outlaws and the Gladiators, a play that went entirely unnoticed until the replay between rounds. As we enter overtime, the green wall is filtering back into the point one by one in order to flip the momentum of the match. Raucus enters his Transcendence from early and attempts to keep Coolmat alive on point. Before he can even get there, however, Coolmat is picked off and Big Goose decides that he's seen enough of this map and just wants to get to the next area of Ilios. He boops off the ulting Zenyatta and completely shuts down any semblance of hope for the Outlaws this round. An incredibly well-timed play from one of the most underrated supports in the league.
Them more often than anyone else. There's so many people who are... Yeah, bye.
What a poof!
Speaking of incredible support play, in at number 5 this week we have Jaehong reasserting himself as a force to be reckoned with on the Zenyatta. NYXL had executed a great defensive effort up to this point, stalling out Soul for nearly half of their allotted time. And with an ultimate advantage heading into this engagement, it's all the more impressive that the Dynasty were able to turn things around here. We can see Libera dash into the action and activate his Dragon Blade well within the backline. Now typically this should be easy pickings onto supports with no ultimates, right? But in typical Jaehong fashion, however, he doesn't seem to care about the odds as he flicks around and dispatches Libera before he's even able to strike with his blade. Things are kind of only just heating up, however, as Seoul continue to push the payload through the second phase of Gibraltar. Jaehong is brought back into a losing fight and is yet again able to shut down an ulting Libera. This is no easy feat for his Zen, yet he is able to pull it off twice in the span of only a few minutes before continuing to cause chaos around the point. He picks off Meko and Manu before narrowly activating his Transcendence and wisely sectioning off members of NYXL, allowing for Miro to come in and deal damage. The rest of the kills are all but cleaned up as Jaehong lands the final blow onto Arc before capturing the second checkpoint. An absolutely insane performance on the Zenyatta this week from one of the best in the world. In at number 4 this week, we see Seoul featuring once again on this list, however this time it's Flutter who provided the incredible burst of action. Activating his Dragon Blade just as the opposing Transcendence came to an end, Flutter effortlessly picks off both supports on the side of the Spitfire, before cleaning up Wuyol and instinctively dashing towards a popular entry point and finding yet another remarkable pick onto Birdring before capturing the second checkpoint. Certainly one of the most efficient Genji ultimates we saw all week. In at number 3 this week, we have a really impressive defensive effort coming out from the LA Valiant on Hollywood. Kicking things off, Florida finds a few crucial kills from early on in the fight as they force the rest of the Valiant off of the point for the time being. Unko activates his Transcendence as Valiant clearly decide to contest this point for as long as they possibly can, despite the player disadvantage at hand. Yet another pick comes through for Florida as they edge ever so close to securing the final tick. At this point in time, as the clock ticks down, you can see that it's legitimately fate against the world as he's the only remaining member of the Valiant actually standing tall on the point. Simply observing this scene, one would assume that Florida had this fight in the bag. Before long, however, Envy filters back onto the point just in time as Soon re-emerges in the background as well. Kills are traded as things continue to look dire for the Valiant. Swoosh lands a huge Earth Shatter onto two squishies as they are both taken out with ease. Things could not look more dire for the hometown team, yet they continue to throw themselves on the point and somehow start flipping the momentum. Agilities and Unko go to work in the background. With a severe player and ultimate disadvantage throughout, somehow the LA team was still able to hold together and maintain the point in what was a minute-long push from the Florida Mayhem. That's an incredible effort and certainly deserves to be in the number 3 spot this week. In at number 2, we have EQO absolutely styling on the opposition once again. In their winning effort against the Dallas Fuel to close out the week of competition, Philadelphia holds nothing back on this final map. Holding the Dallas squad from an incredibly close position, the Philly roster is essentially able to spawn camp for a significant period of time as Dallas simply fumbled and failed to adapt. EQO puts on a show, starting with his smooth headshot onto AKM in spawn. Continuing to hold this position for yet another minute, EQO lands shot after shot. He takes out effect on the Tracer, goes on to force out both support ults literally a meter away from their spawn room, and shows absolutely no respect when staring down the Diva Bomb coming his way. He quickly takes out a discorded timer and essentially deals all the necessary damage onto AKM as well, clearly securing a 10-player kill streak in the process. Supreme confidence is on display from EQO once again as he continues to outperform expectations in helping propel the Fusion up in the overall rankings. In our top spot this week, we have something we very rarely see in the league, a Doomfist play. And who else of course but Hydration, the champion of mystery heroes, could be the one to create such a remarkable highlight on said hero. Starting things off, he slams into Zebasai before landing an uppercut on Swoosh. He does an incredible amount of damage onto Zappis as he charges the Diva mech into the wall behind before finishing off the baby Diva and essentially forcing out the Transcendence from Zupe as he sees his remaining tank lineup incredibly weak. Failing to care at all about the Transcendence in play, Hydration activates his ultimate and cleanly picks off Zebasai just after he activates his Valkyrie and gets the res. It's worth mentioning here just how insanely boosted Hydration's HP gets. He deals such an incredible amount of damage, just look how high his shields are, it's honestly absurd. The next kill onto Maniton is picture perfect. Genuinely could not have been a more efficient use of Doomfist's abilities when securing a kill. Unable to find a counter under the strenuous circumstances, Florida failed to adapt as Hydration continues to apply the pressure, slamming straight into the backline and picking off Zupe before he can even really have a chance to make it out of the spawn room. He's finally dealt with, but not before LA pushed the payload within 2 meters of the final checkpoint. It's not often that we see the Doomfist pick, and it's even rarer to see someone in the league exemplify what high-level Doomfist play actually even looks like. Hydration pulled out all the stops and giving us the single best Doomfist play in the league to date. So that's it, that's our list again for this week. Feel free to voice your opinions in the comments below, let us know what you think might have deserved a spot on the list. Always a fun discussion to have. As always though, thanks for tuning in and I'll see you in the next one.